Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon when you are listening. This is Run It Back, episode number 64. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Menelik Fernandez. Keeping it a little bit casual today. We're recording in the middle of July, so I'm wearing a Buck shirt and repping after what happened this week. I hope my guests and other coaches don't mind too much, just showing a little fan support. The premise of the show remains the same. Basically, we take a game that has happened previously and we run it back, so to speak, where we talk about like adjustments that we would have made or the scouting process or matchups going into the game or what we're tracking on the bench, all that fun stuff that coaches like to talk about. And today remains to be the same. We're looking at a game from November 15th, 2019. It's Gonzaga versus Texas A&M. This one, though, is a little bit special and a little bit different. We don't have a coach joining us from the game. We actually have a player joining us from the game today. So, big thank you to Admon Gilder joining us today, who played. This is kind of the fun or intricate type thing, is that when I ask people to choose the game that they want to do for Run It Back, the criteria is usually, is it a close game, a game that you did the scout for, or a game that had significant meaning? Well, Mr. Gilder, of course, played 4 years at Texas A&M and then finished his playing career, 4 years including a redshirt year at Texas A&M, and then finished his career at Gonzaga. This game being Gonzaga versus Texas A&M, of course, had special meaning to him. And he is now moving along with his career. When the pro thing is finished, he's looking at becoming a coach himself. And I actually met him at a coaching convention. So that being said, he wants to take a stab at, doing some of the game prep work here. He was involved in the process. So he wants to share with us what he's doing. So I am very, very thankful. Thanks for joining us, Admon. It's a real pleasure to have you on. And as a side note, I'm a fan. Great player.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Like I tell people all the time, it was just a great experience to be able to go to the Rising Coaches clinic because I was able to meet great people like you and multiple other coaches, and also rising coaches. So blessed to be able to be in a position right now.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So let me set the background a little bit for people who don't know. You guys played 3 days before against North Dakota. You're fairly early in your season still. And you had mentioned to me that, you were really involved in the scouting process as a player because obviously you had spent several years there. So give us some background. What do your coaches come and say to you that they want you to be involved? What are you sharing with them, and how are you sharing it with them?
Can you repeat that again?
Sure. So give us a little bit of a background of the process of the coaches involving you in the scouting process. So like, what kinds of things are they asking you? What are you sharing in order to prep? How early do you start that in terms of like, you played 3 days before? Are they coming to you 3 days before, or is the person responsible for the scout asking you earlier in the season to help you out with it? Just everything that surrounds what goes into the background of this game, if you could.
I think initially it just depends on who you're talking to. You know what I'm saying? I think at the end of the day, there are so many different coaches and so many different players, and everybody's different. I think that's the main thing. And some coaches come to you, early in advance, just to kind of pick your brain because as a player, you're seeing things on the court different than what a coach sees. And then
Right.
as from a coaching standpoint, there are some that are really direct on what they do. There's some of them that are really demanding in what they do. And so I play for some really great coaches, and the coaches I play for, they're always getting everything done early. I think that's the preparation that you need, to be able to be a great coach is having your staff all involved, having your players involved, and that's the reason why you create a bond and create that culture that people always talk about.
Love it. So let's go back to this a little bit. As a player at Gonzaga versus a player at Texas A&M, what would that scouting process look like for you? What kinds of things are your coaches sharing with you, and how would that compare and contrast between the two institutions?
I think initially, playing at A&M, we're playing SEC every single night, which is a little more physical, a little more, a little more bigger and physical, like I said. And I think initially, you have to prepare yourself in the weight room. I think
Right.
the way we lift weights, the way we eat our nutrition, we take that really serious. And then once we get in practice, we're banging. Our first couple of drills are box out drills because you're playing against these high level SEC big men and also guards that you got to be able to play physical with. And then initially, going to Gonzaga, it's the exact same way. But I think you know the way we play defense is, I think we all are interchangeable. So therefore, me playing the three at Gonzaga, um, it gives me more opportunity to be able to switch on guards, play, pick up full court, and also maybe even guard some 4 and 5 because our bigs can guard. And so when your bigs can guard, then it gives you a little more versatile from on the perimeter.
Like it. So at Gonzaga, when you're involved in this process, as you mentioned to me, um, having played 3 days before, what would those 3 days leading up to the game look like for you? Like, I mean, obviously the coaches are going to require a little bit more of your time than they would normally, but what does your routine look like as a player going into that?
I think initially just want to be able to put up a lot of shots. I'm one of those guys who's a shooter, so therefore, getting with a manager, that's why you got to be able to build relationships with managers, even players. I think I'm a really hard worker, so therefore I'm always trying to put extra work in. And then mentally, I'm always trying to listen to the best music out there. And so
There you go.
whether, whether
Get you set up. I like it.
you gotta get there right mentally. And then on the road, we eat the best because when you go to one of the best schools in the country, you get treated like the best. And so I think the biggest thing going to Gonzaga kind of opened my eyes up to is they treat you like pros. If you want to be a pro, that's what they treat you like. And like for instance, when you're going on the road, you have so much freedom. If you want to go shopping, you want to go do this and that, you just have to do it within the means of the teams and also be on time for a scouting report, be on
Right.
time for shoot around and stuff like that. And that's what really opened my eyes up on Gonzaga. And then, you're traveling on the West Coast, you're traveling to San Diego, you're traveling to San Francisco, you're traveling to Pepperdine, Malibu, so shoot, that's just the eye opener for me.
Yeah, I love it. As far as say the shoot around or the scout, how is that delivered to you? Like, are you guys getting a paper copy? Are you getting film? Are you getting both? Who goes through it with you? And like, what does that look like for you as an individual?
So basically, when we're getting a scout, um, we're preparing a week earlier, maybe even 2 weeks. It just depends on how our schedule looks. Who we're playing. If we're playing a weaker opponent, So for instance, like we're playing BYU this coming Saturday, we're preparing for them two weeks in advance, and that's why I think it's so important to have so many great people on your staff to be able to do their job. And so you have those small individual meetings with your assistant coaches. I think every assistant coach is scheduled to have maybe 3 or 4 players on the team, and that they're talking to every single day about
Right.
their job for our team. So, for instance, when I'm talking to B Mike, he's one of our assistants at Gonzaga. We're going over different ways that I can score, different ways that I can assert myself on a defensive end, and being able to, and apply it all, and everybody coming together as a team collectively.
Would they do anything like testing you on what they're delivering to you, or is it more of a matter of it gets delivered in a way that you want it to be delivered and then you ask questions at your leisure, like you mentioned being treated like a pro? How does that work in that environment?
That's why you got your scout team, man. Scout team are your walk-ons, the guys that are looking for opportunities. So therefore, you put them in a game-like situation. So therefore, if we're playing, let's say, Ja Morant.
Right.
I said an NBA player, just that's just on topic, but one of our walk-ons are John Morant. So therefore, he knows every single tendency that he does on and off the court. And so, for instance, if John Morant likes to get into the hole and dunk on you, then that's something that our walk-ons that we try to implement everything in practice. So we're doing small little drills that lead up to 5-on-5 actions. And then once we do the small little drills and get to 5-on-5 actions, we've done it so much to the point where now it's in our brains, it's in our, we had a clear visual of everything. And so that's why it's good to have bodies in college. That's why I'm starting to see why GAs are really important because
Yeah, no kidding.
they also can be, be really beneficial down the road.
it's a huge commitment. Yeah, Ahmed, go ahead, man. If you got a question, just jump in.
Hey, Coach, real quick question for you. So you mentioned that, there's some certain teams that you're preparing 2 weeks in advance for. Um, when it comes to conference play, is that still the case in conference play? Are you guys preparing 2 weeks in advance for a team in conference play, or are you guys going week by week?
You go
Depending on
you go week by week, but I think also initially, for instance, like in the beginning of the year, I think all the coaches will get to have a set amount of games that they're looking at. For instance, so if you're a head coach and we have Kentucky on that year, we have St. Mary's, you're scheduled to have some of the games. And basically, I mean, of course, every game is bigger, and BYU, St. Mary's, those are bigger games in conference. And so therefore, like when it comes down to conference play, we played them so many times to the point where we're not going over much the things that they do because they do the exact same thing year in, year out. And so I think one great experience that I had was when we played St. Mary's, they run the same exact offense. So therefore now, but they also have a different team. So Jordan Ford is not there anymore, but they're doing everything that they'll do for a guy like Jordan Ford.
Like it.
So what? Sorry, one more.
No, go ahead, man. Yeah, please.
So, okay, so if you're playing a weaker team, right? So let's say you're playing a weaker team, on Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a game on Tuesday, against, let's say BYU. You're playing BYU on Tuesday. You're playing a weaker team on the Saturday. That week prior, right? Or that week prior, are you kind of just walking over, walking through, the weaker team just a little bit and focusing more on that BYU game? Is it because from a mentality standpoint, like that's what I'm trying to get to is what at that Division I level, what is that? What are the coaches trying to implement into your mind? Like, is
What
it
are they
every
prioritizing?
game counts, or every game matters, or you know what? No, we're really, really good. We're at Gonzaga. We're gonna, Mark Few's telling you we're really, really good. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
just focus on, right. So that's kind of where my question is that mentality piece.
I think the mentality is the same, like every single game that we play, we're trying to beat everyone by 50. It just happens to be where, we're playing Pepperdine where, you know, they're not as good as BYU sometimes, but that same mentality is within us. That's why he goes and recruit those players that, that can dribble, shoot, that are winners and stuff like that. And BYU is just something that like that's a rival game. It's like Boston and the Lakers playing against each other. We already got that schedule, and that's the type of game that you can't win, and those are the type of game that you have to bring your best effort because they're going to bring their best effort.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about film in those few days in between games there leading up to this game. You mentioned some scouts are started earlier than others. Some games are prioritized. You get up the same way for every game, but certain games, you spend a little bit more time on the preparation process. So in, the couple days between, say, North Dakota and this, what kinds of points of emphasis would your coaches that are responsible for your small group deliver to you in terms of film?
I think initially, we're an office team. That's why they're really good every single year. So therefore, we break down ball screens like no other team in the country. So for instance, we're looking at all the different reads. We run in that continuous ball screen. So therefore, when you come off that ball screens, you got three different looks. You have once you come off the ball screens, of course, score first. Every player on the team, you're told that every single day, score first. But when you come off that ball screen, you also have a duck in on the opposite side. When that duck in is there, then if it's not there, then that's your layup. Then if not, you also have the field guy. That's Corey Kisper, who's shooting at 45% from the three. So therefore, that's always in the back of your head. Like I know he's coming off that ball screen.
Sorry, what was the
And
term you called him? The field guy?
the field guy.
Oh, the Phil. Sorry, I misheard.
Mm. So basically, Corey is the ultimate field guy because, but most of the times, depending on how the team is guarding them, they're probably almost stuck to him. So therefore, you're not getting that look every single time. And if he does, then something is wrong.
Right.
So that's why I think Gonzaga is so good, because now you have everybody on the court that can, that is a weapon. So then of course when you come off the ball screen, you have, the big rolling, and it gives you so many different looks. Then if not, we don't have anything, that's when you reverse it. And so those are the type of things that we're going through in film to be able to help every single player. What are your reads? What are you looking for? What do you want? What do you want in this play? And for instance, um, we're a school that, we throw the ball in the post, and especially my year, that last year's team, they had a little more freedom to be able to do a little more from a
Right.
guard standpoint. But that's what we do. That's what we're going through during film.
So what would you take teams that play a similar style of defense and see how they've played it against, teams that have played a similar style of offense, and see the team you're about to play and see how they react to similar ball screen actions? So
Yeah,
like I'm trying to figure out specifically what it is that they're giving you in between the games. And it's like, hey, this guy, like if they're a high hedge team, when he's high hedging, he's always off balance on his back foot or something. Or like if, they play a flat and over the way that you want to attack it, are you looking for other teams that shake up really high in behind as well? Like I'm just wondering where the comparisons come from.
I think it goes with personnel. For instance, if if I'm coming off a ball screen, most definitely they're going to hedge because I'm a shooter.
Right.
And so that's why I think that's what I'm trying to get to, because the coaches, they'll tell you exactly how they think they'll guard it. And of course, we're going through that in film because, for instance, especially when we get to conference play, like if you're playing Pepperdine twice, then we basically go over how do they guard it, even in the previous year. So for instance, my year, I'm watching guys in my similar roles. So I'm watching a guy like Zach Norvell, who plays it too, who can shoot it really well and can do all the tangible
Right.
in between things. So, or for a guy like Corey Kisper, then they're telling him, okay, you're not getting that much room when you're shooting because everybody knows you're the best shooter in the country. So
Right.
therefore, how we get you a shot when we know that, for instance, we'll tell maybe the big to slip. So therefore, it now gives Corey Kisper, an angle to drive. And then once you start driving and kicking and continue to have that ball screens, something's going to be open. That's why it's so hard to guard against Gonzaga. You can't stop everything, because if you think you're stopping something, then we're going to get it on the back end. That's why you can consistently have those ball screens.
Right. And then what about on the defensive side that would be specific to your opponent? What kinds of things are they giving you? And I'm going to make this a two-part question. Sorry. Would you guys always play a similar ball screen coverage regardless of your opponent, so that you're always doing one thing and doing it well? Or would you flip certain coverages based upon who you're playing? Like, hey, they do this really well, let's move into this instead type deal.
Okay. I think it works both ways, because, for instance, if we're playing a team that's guard oriented and they're shooting the shit out of the ball, then
Right.
we'll tell our bigs to hedge more. And if we know we're going into a game where this team doesn't really shoot the ball really well and we want them to shoot threes, then we don't tell our big to hedge, because now we don't want our big to also get in foul trouble. And so therefore, then, like I said, it goes both ways. And I think initially the best answer would be is who we're playing and what are we doing in that preparation during practice.
So you guys do work on multiple coverages and being good at various different things throughout the season. So you're pretty prepared from the time of the preseason, and then coach will just be like, let's move into this or let's move into that for this particular game.
Yeah, for instance, when I first got there, we broke down all the concepts that Gonzaga goes through, and so me going to A&M, coach, he's a cocky guy. That's what he is. So therefore, like, he thinks everything that Gonzaga does is the best way to do it. And so, like, for instance, when we're doing concepts, we're doing how to hedge a ball screen correctly, how to get underneath the ball screen, how to get over a ball screen. We call it all those different things, and I can't remember the names because that was kind of like 2 years ago. But
No problem.
there's a name for everything that we do.
Like it. Moving into that game, what about like matchups? How how early would you find out? I mean, I think you probably have a pretty good idea who you're guarding pretty early, but how early would you find that out? And then how much of the scout is detailed specific to that versus how much of the scout is for everyone and what everyone does on the other team?
Um, I think for one, we pay attention a lot to the scouting report, but I think we play so fast, then that's why we create the tempo. So therefore, all the things that we go through during the scouting report is basically like, okay, well, this guy right here in the corner is a shooter. So therefore, when we have another man driving into the lane, you don't help off of him. And so I think it's just things that we try to remember. It's small little details that help win and consistently to win. So, but other than that, I think it's basketball. Especially at Gonzaga, like we're free playing. We're trying to score. We're trying to be the first team to 100,
Right.
and on the defense end, we trying to lock down as the best of our abilities, and that's why you go through personnel. If you have a team that can't really guard ball screens as well, that's why you hedge a little bit for a little more. And so
Would all like, but I think what I'm trying to get at really is like, would all five of you get the same information on all five of their starters, or would you specifically, if you're playing the two, let's say, get everything on two and not worry as much about the other players?
yeah, now we get a piece of paper that basically has every single player's weaknesses and strengths. And then within those weaknesses and strengths, as you have every single player and in the back of the sheet, now that's when you have their team concepts. And that's why we go over some of the plays that they do. And I think that's when we have our, assistant coaches or a manager break down those films. And then that's the thing that we're going over in practice. So we know a team that they run horns every single possession. We have horns on the scouting report. We know a team that does a floppy action, and then floppies in on that scouting report. And
Right.
those are the things that we're going over. And so
Like that was actually sort of where my next question was going, is like, what's the weight in the scout of their sets? Like, you're mentioning that you're getting their sets and you're walking through it a little bit. I think that sort of covers it or whatever, but I know a lot of teams would rather play within their concepts instead of worrying about the particular actions that they run. You guys did actually do like walkthroughs of their actions and did get like play breakdowns on the sheet as well.
yeah, that scouting report is really detailed. Like it's like 4 pages.
I hear you.
And then with those 4 pages, we have our technology guy, whatever we call him. Then he's sending us separate film on all the sets that they do. So therefore, we get to see it in practice. We get to see it during film session before practice, and then when we go home, those are the type of things that we're supposed to look at, especially
Right.
us being pros. And that's what Coach Field holds you accountable every single day about that.
Love it. That's what I'm getting at. Like, what happens if you're unaccountable? Are you like, I mean, you're basically not going to play, or do you get chewed out type deal?
You better score 30.
You better move to Venezuela real quick. No,
Yeah.
so then here's my question to you. At one point in life, you're probably going to move into coaching. You conveyed to me, having been a high level player at a really, really good school and getting really detailed scouts. Would you do it the same way when you become a coach, where it would be really, really detailed? Or do you think that you would keep it like the less is more? And what would you highlight if it was less is more?
I think it'll be really detailed, and I'm not just saying that just because it sounds good, but that's the only thing that I'm used to. So therefore,
Right.
why not be the exact same way? And coming from a school like Gonzaga, coming from a school like A&M, where they did it the best every single night, then that's the things that I'm trying to be able to imply to my players. Like I've been at the highest level, and that's why I think initially, when I get into being a coach, that's why I think things are, everything's going to be tough. I mean, I'm not saying me jumping right into the coaching bit is going to be sweet, but I think me being a player, then you have somebody on staff where, okay, Admon's been through this. Admon's been through the battle. He's been to the tournament. He's been in tough games, and so
Right.
when the coach is not necessarily getting to the player like he wants to, then that's when I come in as a coach and be able to emphasize, like, hey, I know coach might not be on be on you every single day, but everything that he's telling you is true. So you just
Yeah.
gotta listen.
Yeah. I like and appreciate that. In terms of like rotations going into the game, you said that they like to treat you as pros. I'm wondering, did you find in your experience that you were always sort of subbed at the same times, or did you have a good idea of how many minutes you would play and when those minutes would be, all those kinds of things? Like what did rotations look like there?
Man,
You laughed a little bit. I'm curious to hear what for.
man, I think initially any player knows that, so that's kind of like as the season go on, you kind of realize small little details, small little tendencies that coach likes to do,
Right.
small groups that he likes to play, because that's why I tell players all the time, you got to play hard in practice because therefore coach is always looking. If he knows this team is always doing good in practices, he's going to try those different things. And that's one thing about great coaches. They're observant. And I've kind of figured that out being with two great coaches. And for instance, when I was at Gonzaga, you know, I started out in the beginning of the season and then kind of had like some little difficulties. But when I was coming off the bench, I knew I was coming in at the 15-minute mark every single game.
You just
And
knew it's
then
like 15, like you just started moving towards the
15,
table.
man, it was great. I started taking my warm off around like 16 minutes. So that's why I laughed. And I used to tell one of my teammates that all the single time, like, unless someone gets in foul trouble really early, then I'm coming at the 15-minute mark. And then it depends on how I'm playing, the flow of the game. If I come in, get either quick four, I might stay till maybe the 7-8 minute mark, or it just depends on how the game is going. And then I know, for instance, I'm always coming out maybe right there at 7 or 8. If I'm in the game at like maybe in 6 minutes, then that means I'm having a really, really good game
Right.
on both ends. And then after that, it just depends on who we're playing. Like, for instance, I'm a great defender. So therefore, if you're playing a team that has really, guards that can take the guys off the bounce, then I know I'm pretty much going to play majority of the time because that's just who I am,
Right.
So
Right. Like you're playing to my strengths right now, so that's fine. Keep me in here.
keep you in there. And then I'm also one of those guys that can guard some big men. So therefore, sometimes I'll come back in maybe right there at the 4 or 3 minute mark because now our bigs need some rest, and maybe one big's in foul trouble. So therefore, he want to go with a smaller unit and maybe put Corey at the 4 and put me at the 3 instead of me being at the 2. So it just depends on who we're playing, but most definitely when the game starts and I'm coming off the bench, I'm coming out at the 15-minute mark.
Interesting. In terms of moving from, say, a 2 to a 3, how early in the season is that conveyed to you that you might play both? And every time you're given stuff, are you always looking at all the positions and what they're responsible for? Or do you really only focus in more on like, probably going to play more of the 2 this game. I'm only going to play and look at that kind of stuff.
I think within our offense, everything's interchangeable. So therefore, if you're a 1-2-3, you're pretty much doing all the exact same things unless coach is running a specific play for you.
Okay.
And I think that's why when people see about that ball screens at Gonzaga, like you're doing the exact same thing. Now all the reads are the same, so that's why it's important to be able to dribble, shoot, and pass.
Yeah.
And then, for instance, maybe now if you're a 4 or 5 in the Gonzaga offense, oh, you're winning because that's all. It's so much space because now when we run the ball screens, now it gives it free access to be able to have the high and low pass, a high low pass, and it's always open, always open.
Right.
But I think when you talk about your question, it's more on the defensive end. When I'm a 3, I'm crashing the board on an offense rebound instead of getting all the way back.
Right.
Or for instance, when I'm a 2, like I said, I'm getting back in transition, so therefore the team won't start to break.
Interesting. So what are your principles on how many to the glass? I mean, you're obviously superficially touching on it, but that's a question I like to ask all the time there. Is it only 2 to the offensive glass, 3 to the offensive glass? And does it ever change, or is it always like, this is what we're doing here?
So funny question. That's another good question. It just depends on who you are. For instance,
Right.
if I'm playing the 2, we want all 4 to go to the glass because we want more offense possessions. And when you have 4 going to glass, it gives your chances to be able to give more offensive reps pretty much. And then if coach tells you to go to the glass, he sees you're not going to the glass, he's gonna tell you get your ass back. Like,
right.
So I think initially, yeah, it depends on who you are and are you being productive going to the glass? And if you're not being productive, then it's just smarter for you to get back because now our defense is set and it gives us a little more secure on the defensive end.
So as somebody who one day will have his own team, what are your thoughts on what you'll take from that in terms of the pace of play that you want to play at? Obviously, Gonzaga wants more possessions. The offensive rebounding, obviously, you want more possessions. Are you going to incorporate that, or do you think, that'll be personnel based and you'll strategize based upon what you guys have type deal?
I think it goes for both. It just depends on what type of player that I have or recruiting. But I want to play fast. I think that's what the basketball game is getting into. Like the faster you can play, the more points that you can score, the more opportunity you get. And I think, of course, it's great to have, key sets because basketball is not always a transition game. So therefore,
Right.
you're gonna have to be able to execute within the half court offense. And but initially, I want to play fast. That's how I play. That's how I love to play. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Let me ask you this. Are you guys running anything specific in transition every single
No.
time that it's the same thing, or are you playing and then when it's off of a make or you're not in transition, you get into secondary break or half court sets type deal? Like
Okay,
what are the guidelines that are given to you in transition when you're playing fast there?
on a miss, it's like a track meet. First one to the basket.
Right.
But then again, you have so many guys on a team that's unselfish. That's when you create more opportunity. So therefore, when your point guard gets the rebound off the glass, he's gone, and therefore, now you have shooters on the wings, filling all areas. Even our fours and fives can shoot sometimes. So therefore,
Right.
it's creating so much opportunity. And then now, once you don't have anything in transition, now that's when you see the continuous ball screen comes. But in transition, you're trying to score as fast as possible. We try to score in less than 7 seconds.
Like it. And in terms of in-game adjustments, for anybody who doesn't know what this particular game, you guys went on a 29-5 run at the end of the first half there that really separated the game. And I don't think they were ever really able to recover. But in terms of in-game adjustments, it's hard for some teams to play with a lead. It's hard for some teams to keep focus. What kinds of things do you remember your coach giving you that was like either something to help you stay focused and continue executing, or like, hey, we noticed this and this will continue to give us an even bigger advantage type deal?
I think initially when you play so fast to the point where your players start to get trigger happy, and
Right.
I think initially that's when coach resorts back to, hey, let's run our offense, because now if we're getting the ball inside, then it creates more opportunities, for the perimeter guys.
Right.
And that's when we let high-low pass works every single time. So I'm trying to tell you that, like I see it before it happens. Like I see the big down there fighting, and the next thing you know, the ball screen comes. Now that big is slow, to hedge on that ball screen. So now once that guard comes off, if you don't reverse it into the big, you have a duck in, or you reverse it to the big, and now they're playing because now our big can also put it on the floor, and that's why you've seen Kutemi score so many points, because now he can put it on the floor and he can create his own shot as well.
Love it. I have 2 questions left before film, if none of the other coaches have anything. The first, I think these 2 questions really kind of tie into each other. One, what was your scout factor in this win, in your opinion? Like, how accurate was the report and how much did it contribute to your success? And then the second half of this question, which I think ties into it, was at Gonzaga, let's say, if the scout was not accurate or if there were execution problems, is there any sort of post-game report that is given to you guys, or post-game sit down where they go through your coachable things or your coachable points, et cetera? Like, what does that look like? So 2-part question. The first part, basically, how good was the scout in your opinion from what you can remember? And when the scout is a little bit off, or when execution is a little bit off, how is that coached up?
I think I was actually one of the guys who helped coach with the scouting report, because I knew every single player on the team. And so
Right.
I'm giving him a breakdown of things that, he already knows, but also giving you a better inside look.
Right.
So basically, when you tell me a guy like Tavion Flagg it's a driver, I'm telling you, he's driving right every single time.
Right.
Or or when I tell you JJ Chandler's a driver, I'm telling you, man is going left. I don't care what happens. If he goes right, he's getting back to his left. Um, and then also, for instance, I think one thing that I can remember, our big man Josh Nebo, I'm telling him. So when in a scout report and they're telling people that he's athletic, and it's a difference when someone tells you he's athletic and I know he's athletic. Like when I tell you, if you don't box this man out,
He's
he
going
will
over
dunk.
top of you.
He's scoring on top of you, you know. And I think initially that's why it's great to have players, you know, give feedback on scouting reports and also watch film because we've seen these guys over the years. So even not just Gonzaga versus A&M, for instance, when we're playing Gonzaga versus Arizona, I played these guys that, you know, that on the AAU circuit. So I know a little bit better.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm not telling coach how to do your job, but I'm also telling you, like, from me playing him, I know if you trap him on the ball screen, he's gonna give it up. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I always find this point funny that like a lot of coaches forget exactly what you just mentioned. Like the people that are in your class that are good, by the time you're getting to us in college, you've played against or seen a lot at that point in life. So, like, you're probably going to know some intricacies that we might not, and we should probably consult you on that kind of stuff. I mean, you're out there, you're the ones playing the game. We forget that often.
nah, most definitely. And I mean, I don't think we forget it. I just think like I think a lot of coaches implement it. Like for instance, my coaches always ask like, "Hey, like, what do you think?" And I think that's why it's great to have a great relationship with your coaches because
Right.
those are the type of conversations you need to have.
Love it. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in. If not, I'm going to move into a little bit of film. Admon, just to remind you, I'll play each clip 3 times. I pulled 12 from this game. And basically, I will, the first time I'll play it through so you can have a look at it. The second time, I will fumble my way through a description for anybody who's listening and not watching type deal. And then the third time, it's all yours. You know, just sort of give us the breakdown of what you see and why you would run it, or what you like, or what you don't like about it. Anything that's along those lines. Can you see this size? Okay, are you okay there?
Yeah, I can see it.
And it's smooth for you. It's playing okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So this one is the first play of the game. You guys are on the defensive end. I think my questions from my notes were first off, like I liked the set that they were running, but if you had it, how you could defend it better, all that kind of stuff. So for anybody who's listening, basically it starts with the jump and we bring the ball to the offensive right side of the floor. And then there is like a failed, I don't know if it's really a UCLA or a wedge screen, but they enter the ball into the post. And then this turns into a flare screen away that turns into a stagger screen towards, and then turns now into basically spread ball screen where they attack the center of the floor. And he pulls up for a paint 2 just underneath the free throw line. So, Admon, you know, give it. Do you have the set? Do you like the way you defended it? What would you do different? All that kind of stuff.
I think initially, I think everything was good. I got over the ball screen, and then where the confusion comes in now, like I said, JJ Chandler on that right wing, on that right corner, he he's like he's a Rondo closeout. You know, even though that was my friend. So I think you initially have that. I think that's Anton Watson in that left on that left side guarding JJ. You have him tag Josh Nebo. And I think initially that's when we were trying to tell our guys like we can't let those guards get downhill because they're just gonna lob it up to Josh Nebo. And if you see, I'm not maybe Philip on that ball screen, maybe him kind of giving a little more resistance. So you see he come off the ball screen, he has no resistance. He's able to turn that quarter, and that's why he's able to get that little floater right there.
So that resistance, what would be the ideal spot for you to be in up top there? Would you just be swiping at the ball, or would your help be your position and then you'd have a one-way closeout in an ideal world?
First of all, Coach Yu is on his case because you're already in trouble. When he's coming off that ball screen, you're too low. Philip is one of those guys that plays the overseas basketball, and I think he's He's just too low. So therefore, when the screen's going on right now, he needs to at least be at that high school 3-point line. And that takes away all your problems. If he's at the high school 3-point line now, when you got this ball screen, it even gives Anton Watson a little more room to tag because you yeah. So now right there, he needs to be a little higher. And it's not
Hey, would
even
you
just him.
see?
It's not him being higher. It's his right foot needs to be higher. He's too flat, and I think that's the problem right there.
Okay. And as far as your drop defender, your big there, what do you think about his positioning, and should he provide more resistance as well, or does he do a good job of just not allowing the man to roll in behind him?
I
So
think he's doing. I think he's doing a pretty good job, but I think initially it starts at the beginning of that ball screen, and you would take away that guard from getting you right there to his spot.
right.
And I think because initially, once we get over balls, one thing about Ryan and myself, Coach gave us a little more freedom. So therefore, if we able to get in front or get him back on his hip, then they're telling the bigs to get back and protect the rim.
And I noticed a few times there was what I would call like a veer switch in there. Who would make that call if that guard can't get back in front or can't get back on the hip? Is it the big's duty to call, or is it the guard's decision to call the switch in there?
It's the guard's decision. It's
Like
the
it.
guard's decision. And then what's also crazy, I think also I'm on that right side, even on this initial drive. I think I'm too high. I need to be more in the gap. And if I'm more in the gap and like maybe even stun at him, maybe like, okay, he's coming, keep going.
Right
Right
about
there.
here. Yeah.
I need to be stunning, and he doesn't get that floater, and it throws him off a little bit. And I think that's one thing coaches always get on me about, not being in the gap quicker enough on the ball screen. And then now, once he gets there, now you kind of recover to your man.
Right. So, I mean, basically higher on one side and a little bit more pulled in on the other side, and you're okay with the way that the big played it for the most part.
Yeah, just initially on the ball screen, play a little higher, and you
Right.
won't put yourself in that position.
Had to throw in a tribute to a good player in here. So this is a baseline out of bounds set of you guys. I don't think you really get your primary action out of it. They double, and a gentleman that is on this call knocks down a nice open three on the other side. So talk to me about options on this baseline out of bounds. For anybody who's listening, basically it's a box set with a diagonal up screen from the help side that turns into a screen, the screener action coming towards the corner. They don't get that, so they enter to the screen and they cut the inbounder in behind. And then when they get nothing out of it, he turns and posts, starts backing down. They come for the help on the baseline side, and we got a second side and a knockdown three. So talk to me about options. Talk to me about your thought process when you're going through everything. How early do you anticipate you're getting your shot? What are your focus points? All that kind of stuff.
I think initially, he's running from the beginning. We're trying to get Corey coming off, a screen, and whenever we're able to get him as many shots as possible, because we know guys are going to be, staying attached to him as much as possible. And now when you see he broke it off, and then now you get into the big, and once the big has it, we clean it out. Philip is one. He was All American that year, and we know once he has the ball, he can create so much, whether it's off the bounce, he can shoot that, mid-range jumper. But I think they doubled, and once they doubled, now that's why you have your shooters spreading out and spacing out, and you have a great shooter over there who can knock down shots.
There you go. He's got a little bit of touch over there, I'm curious, do you guys work on play after the play stuff? So, I mean, like, you're trying to get him coming to the corner, as you say, whether it's the fact that he doesn't, get enough of setting his man up, or if the screen's a little bit off, whatever, they break off for whatever reason. Once you inbound to the big here, is there play after play stuff that you're practicing? Or is it basically when you're in practice and you don't get what your primary thing is, that you're just, all right, we're into basketball. This is how we should play at this point.
I think that's why coach tells you to cut and move. Once you're cutting and moving, and then everything else plays itself. Because now, let's say I don't have that jump shot. Now you have a swing to Corey, and then I think that's Joel. over there on the left wing. Now you just, playing, driving, penetrating, and you got bigs that's still gonna be able to, post up. And so I think that's what those give us so much freedom within our offense.
I love
If
that.
once
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nah, once we run a set, even if it's out of bounds play, if we don't have anything, now we're just playing because everybody can dribble, pass, and shoot.
Right. And when you're just playing, do you have any sort of principles that are put in? Like if I drive baseline, the big should move up or tee up, we call it up here. Or if I drive middle, our wing is moving, the help side wing is moving to the drift. Or if we're attacking middle on some sort of pick and roll action, the drift behind me shakes up. Like, are there principles that are given to you that it's like, hey, you should be doing this most of the time on penetration?
Yes, sir. So, like for instance, if it's always a drive that going baseline, then the big has to clear out because there'd be no room to drive.
Right.
And then on the backside, if a guard is driving me to the baseline, then there's other opportunities on the left corner, and every guard just replaces. So therefore, if I drive baseline on that play, that big will pop up to that free throw line, and then Philip would. Okay, so we go. If I don't have a shot and I drive baseline, then Drew will fill to the in, to the elbow, and then Philip will create space right there in front of the basket, and then Joel will rotate all the way to the corner, and then Corey will get right there into that drift in the slot area.
Love it. Next clip is a defending clip. They get pretty deep in this set, if I remember correctly. And then the big just keeps, and you guys kind of have a half a second of hesitation. He gets to the basket, gets a little paint two out of it. I'll run that back and just sort of talk about it for anybody who's listening. It's it becomes a 4 out 1 in type idea. He keeps on the first handoff as they're playing. There's an away screen. They're trying to play over the top, and then this is where the keep action happens, and he just basically attacks the indecision in there. So talk to me first off. Do you have this set in terms of the scouting? And if not, how would you like to have seen it played better?
I think we do have this in the equation. I think initially, I think it was just bad communication. So therefore, I think that Corey, if I'm not mistaken, he should stay with him as no matter what. And I think initially, since Corey's a 4 man, I think that's when I tell you we play small sometimes with Corey at the 4. Then
Right.
we normally switch 1 through 4. But then again, I think it's just bad communication. So therefore, like if we're looking at this on film, one thing that Coach U would talk about, that's why communication is so big, because now if you just talk on this, then that doesn't even happen.
Right. Do, do you remember, like, so this is you chasing over the top here, and when he keeps and Corey jumps to the switch, do you remember if he called, and like if he did, that really just sort of puts you at a disadvantage, right? Like you're behind the play at that point.
Yeah, I can't remember if we had talked about that, but I think initially I'm one of those guys that chase off ball screens. I think me and Corey talk.
Sorry, I lost you a little bit there.
Oh, so it's just communication. That's just one of those things that we gotta when coach is writing a scout report on the board and it talks about having communications. That's the key.
Gotcha. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, but I think I got you. Basically, it comes down to communication on there, and goes back to when coach is talking about it before the game. Still there, Admon?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It looks like our connection got a little bit shaky there. I think in summary, basically it comes down to communication is what you're saying, and it'd be one that you'd take a look at later on in film, and that's how you would correct it later.
Yeah, it's basically that's a small little okay. If you talk, then that doesn't happen.
Right. This is you're about 8 minutes into the game here. You're down 1 point and just scored to make you guys go up 1. And this is the first time you put in your press. And The press, in my opinion, is interesting because I don't really think you're pressing to steal. I feel like you're just kind of pressing for time. It's really sort of more like, I mean, like you could really attribute it to being a 1-2-2, but it's like, to me, it's really more like 2 to the ball and then just sort of fall back into man at that point. Am I correct in my assessment? Give me sort of like the teaching points on your press. And are you pressing more, like I said, for time, or are you trying to get them to screw up type deal?
Yeah, we're just pressing for time. So therefore, like when we're pressing, we literally, it's a 30-second shot clock in college. So therefore, within that press, our ultimate goal is just to get, to cut down some time. So therefore, when they get into their half court set, they should literally be starting their offense maybe at 24 seconds. If we can get them anything, if we're able to get a 10-second count or get a steal, then that's the advantage that we have. And I think initially within that set right there, that's why you have a guy like Anton Watson, who's a big 6'6", 6'7", and he's actually maybe playing the 3 within this rotation. So, but we just pressing for time. So now, I can't see the shot clock. If they're starting maybe at 24, 25, then
It's actually 16. You guys cut them down a lot. You got them down 14 seconds basically. So they crossed almost right at the 10-second mark, and then it's another 3-4 before they figured out what they were going to do.
Yeah, see, that's our ultimate goal, to just cut some time. So now they're in a rush and they're not, going through their offense with a 30-second shot clock.
Right. And then, I mean, do you guys worry about cross matchups at any point after pressing, or is, like, do you not care and it's just closest man and everybody's got to do their job at that point?
Yeah, it's closest man, and basically, so we switching 1 through 4 anyway. And I think this game here, we didn't have Tilly, so therefore, and they didn't have a dominant force in the paint. So therefore, like Savion Flag is maybe their biggest other big man. So therefore, yeah, we're switching 1 through 4.
Like it. Would you is there anything you would comment on about the time implementation of this? Like, why do you wait 10 minutes in? Do you think it's the ideal time when you've just scored in the other direction? Like, is the timing ideal to you? Would you do it at a different time? What was your feel when you were in the game?
I think initially we got off to a slow start, so therefore we didn't create the tempo, and I think that's why we jump into this little 1-2-2 press, or just 1-2-3-4 press, and we want to create tempo. And coach thinking right now we don't have enough points on the board. That's it. I know that's exactly what he's thinking. So therefore, how do we create more opportunity? Maybe let's press up. Let's get them out their comfort zone and get us at a faster tempo. So therefore, we can play our brand of basketball.
I like it. Like, as a for instance, I think they really are starting their offense right about here. And if you look at the shot clock, that's 16 that's on it, right? Like, they get it over. I was incorrect when I said at the 10 mark. I think it was about 23 seconds that were left, but like there's another 7-8 that they just can't figure out what they want to do in the half court. It gives you an advantage for sure.
Most definitely.
And then we got you guys in transition that kind of gets slowed down a little bit. And it looks like you move right into your Euro ball screen, your ball screen continuity, whatever you want to call it. I'm wondering sort of like, do you run Euro ball screen as your secondary break, or are you guys free to go into it whenever you want type deal, or is it a call? And then my second part of that question is, this ends with a backdoor cut. When are you guys free to break off and sort of improvise from the motion?
Yeah, you're able to break off any point. Like, I think that's why you run those ball screens and it's come so fast, and you basically just reading what the defense is doing. So therefore, when that man cuts through, you get creating a handoff with that guard and the big. If that man's playing too hard, and that's when you back up. And that's why I said it makes it so hard to guard. You can't guard everything. So if I'm sitting in that corner and I'm coming off the ball screen, they're thinking, let me blow it up because they don't want me coming off or getting an easy shot. Then that's when you back cut. And then if you don't have the back cut, now it's the exact same offense on the other side.
Right. Just basically, if you don't get it, reverse it and keep it going at that point.
Keep it going. You can't stop it. We run through this every single day in practice for about an hour.
Like it. Next one is various coverages. One that you guys had. I'm going to run this one. This one's kind of like a lengthy clip.
Okay.
Sorry, my daughter's doesn't want to go to bed right now. Give me 1 second here. 2 more munchkin, okay? All right, thank you. Sorry, Anna.
It's okay.
The 6-year-old, she likes bedtime and doesn't like to go to sleep. So
I have one too, so I understand.
I hear you. So yeah, the reason I pulled this one, I sort of made the various coverages comment to myself when I was looking at it, but it looks like throughout the clip of this, like we start on the offensive left side, and it's almost like a double drag that it starts into. So your big Timmy is way back, dropped way off, and then you switch up top. And then after the switch, they penetrate to 15 feet on the offensive right side. They hit the shake in behind. They've got nothing at this point. So they go DHO towards the wing. You guys switch this. Basically same point of attack. Gets nothing again. So they're deeper into the shot clock. And now we go into ball screen and we switch back with a tag. And then the ball gets moved 2 passes to the corner. So I'm just kind of wondering, like with so many sides, how do you think you played it? And with the switch and switch back, what happened ultimately there?
Did they score on this possession?
I do not believe they did. I think he missed the shot at the end, actually.
I think initially, I think in the scouting report, I think the guard that has the ball, number 12, little short guy. His name is Mark French, and therefore we didn't want to hedge a ball screen because we didn't want to create more opportunity for them. So therefore, we know he's not even looking to score. He's out there to be able to create some offense and create some movement. And so therefore, that's why we're switching. And the more we're able to not create opportunity for them, and keep them in front, then the better that we have, to get in their defensive rebound. And so when Mark French is in the game, we're pretty much not really guarding him, but guarding him, just trying to keep him in front because he's like we know, and I knew, like he's not out there to score. He's just happy to be on the court. And
a guy after my own heart, man.
Yeah, but that's my guy, and he knows it. So therefore, he's a really great guy, and it just it's part of basketball.
I hear you.
But
I'm sorry. At the beginning part of this clip, when it goes into the double here, the first switch that happens here, you guys switch and go over. I've always been taught for most things switch and go under. I'm just sort of wondering why you guys switch and go over at this point. What's the teaching point there that happens?
Probably just, in the flow of the game, like you're supposed to go under. I think you're absolutely correct. And initially, when guys run a double ball screen, especially if that big cannot shoot, then the big is always getting the guy rolling to the basket, no matter who it is. It's kind of like how would the NBA describe it? It's like a 3-man switch. Coverage.
Yeah. Like it.
So.
And then the one at the end here, this last ball screen where you switch, but then you switch back with the tag.
Oh, I don't know. That's an interesting one right there. Switch.
So this is a switch, and that's switching your 5, right? That's Timmy at that point. Am I not mistaken there?
Yeah.
And then, so your 5 goes onto the ball handler, but then he ends up switching back, and you guys tag that roll and pass him off. And I guess you're not too worried about this closeout right here. You're just kind of like, eh. So that's why you pass him back. But why the initial switch here?
I'm not sure. Like I said, sometimes in the game, it's not necessarily, detailed things on what we're doing. It's just basically, what's up, boy? Yeah, bro. We just won. Congratulations.
For anybody who's listening while Admon talks to his guys, he's actually at the basketball tournament and had a massive win today with a game winner. So he's just conveying that to everybody there in the background. Congratulations, sir, of course. Still in the hunt for that money.
Still in the hunt. Yeah, 2 more to go. 2 more go in this region. But like I said, it's just part of basketball. What was going on
I hear you. So this would be an example. Sorry, Admon. This would be an example on the other side of being able to use communication to get you through. Like, hey, maybe we didn't play this the way we were supposed to, but we communicated, got back, and we're good.
And initially, like I said, Mark French is out there, so therefore we're just trying to keep them outside the paint. And one thing too, I think we didn't get to mention, like we knew Texas A&M wasn't a really good 3-point shooting team, so therefore
Right.
we want them to shoot threes. We want to be able to keep them, not getting paint touches and getting easy layups, because that's the only way they score.
Like it. This one is just a play that I like that you guys ran. This is near the end of the first half. You guys are flying at this point. This is right in the middle of the 29-5 run. So, I mean, there's a lot of positive momentum at this point in the game. Basically, you guys run. I don't know what you guys would call this set, because like your cutters act like they're floppy, but your bigs are not really setting those turnout screens. They're kind of more like on the elbows as if they're in a horn set. So, I mean, your wings exchange and you guys hit the offensive right wing. Your point goes through to the offensive left corner and the opposite big pops to the point. And on that pass from the wing to the point, the gentleman who set that ball screen slips, and he slips to an empty run for a beautiful lob. He actually misses the layup and he put it back, but it was just a play that I liked. I thought it was beautiful. I wanted to give it a tribute, but talk me through the steps and the options if you don't get the lob. And is this a little bit of a, hey, we're flying, let's have some fun with one at this point?
I think initially that's why sometimes when we're going through practice and we're going through that continuous ball screen, sometimes coach tells you it's good just to get off the ball, because the more you're able to get off the ball, and that's why you have that layup. That's why it was a quick reversal, and now that's a lob. Initially, if we don't have that lob, it's that big man right there ducking in front of the basket. And so that's why you create more opportunity. Now, if you don't have that duck in right there with Anton Watson rolls to the basket, now this big is obligated to reverse the ball. And I think initially that's why you've seen Joel cut, but he's going to cut, and now you have another ball screen on the opposite side.
Love it.
So that's just, one of those things that coach always tell you, great, pay attention to details. And normally coach would get on Joel for cutting too soon, because now when Phillips gets that ball at the top of the key, you're not supposed to cut until he looks at you. And that's why, that offense is really good.
These ones, would you catch them more than once a game in these sometimes?
Say it again.
When you throw this lob, when you have this reversal and the slip out, would you catch them more than once a game with this?
Yes, most definitely. That's the initial, that's the bread and butter for Gonzaga right there.
Love it. Love it. It's always beautiful when it goes down, because it's a deflating basket. It's like, man, like, what's going on the backside here?
That's what. And when I tell you, like, for instance, when we talked about earlier, 3, 4, 5 always crashing. 1, 2 sometimes gets back depending. And Joel's such a great offensive rebound. That's why he's always going to offense glass and gets the easy putback.
Love it. This is a simple one. I ask it every week. Transition threes, yay or nay, in your opinion as a coach? Yay or nay on Gonzaga's team? And obviously you're a shooter, so you have the go ahead. What do you have to do to earn that go ahead with your coach?
And knock it down in practice. I most definitely love transition threes. If you're able to get a quick 3 in transition, it's a great look. Get your feet set. Now I think that's the key. I think coach always tell you, if your feet is set and you got a clear look, let it fly.
Love it. Love it.
Or if you're not a shooter, you should not be taking transition threes.
So, like, I've heard all kinds of various answers to this, where some people have they're statting practice, or they have shooting ladders to allow certain people to go. But I mean, basically with Coach Few, it was just a matter of like, hey man, you're recruited here to shoot the ball, let that thing fly.
Let it fly. That's why Mr. Make, hey, they're going to eventually fall.
I like it. Just one more set that I like. I got 4 more clips, man. Sorry, just bear with me here. So this one was one that I liked that they ran. I'm wondering if you guys had the set. Basically, it looks like it's set up like it's about to be a stack or Spain pick and roll. The guy on the nail pops to the offensive left side, but then cuts back Iverson over top. and then the guy that would have been the screen turns around and sets like a step up type screen, and they go for their long three, which they do not. Oh, they do hit. I'm sorry. Obviously, they're up quite a bit, but you're in a deep drop, and you mentioned earlier that you don't really care too much about them being on the 3-point line. But did you have the set, and how do you think you played it, and would you do anything different?
I think initially that's just you got hit with the screen, you're not able to fight over. Um, then like I said, the drop is he's too deep. I don't care, even if it's the screen is set farther out. Um, and now you're giving him a clear look. I don't care what player you know,
He's still
any
a
player
college
is
level basketball player, right? Like,
yeah, any player gets a clean look like that, he's gonna knock it down eventually. So I think initially when you go through and film, hey Corey, that's why you don't get hit with a ball screen, and that's why you uh, coach tell us sometimes in ball screens you're supposed to direct him where he needs to go, and instead you get hit with a ball screen that you don't have first of all no idea is coming. So therefore maybe if that big is closer, now he can communicate like we talked about. Communicate, hey, here comes a ball screen to your right. Now it gives him the guard a little more earlier notice about the ball screen is coming. He maybe can fight over and just give him a little more resistance on that pull up.
right. Love it. 3 more. This is just guarding the roll replace action. They didn't run it much in this, but I've seen a lot of teams sort of struggle with this. The ball ends up on the offensive right side. They ball screen, they attack towards the middle. He rolls, and there's a replace on this empty side, and they throw behind for what is a wide open look, and misses the shot. You guys end up going out the other way, but what do you think in terms of the way you play it, and what would you do differently, if anything?
We're living with that. That's what I told you initially. We're coming into that ball game knowing they're not really great shooters. So therefore, as long as we're keeping them outside the paint, then that's how we win. And that's probably the reason why we're up so big right now, because the small little details, and that's ran beautifully. Like the guy feels, we knows he's a rondo closeout, gives you a little more time to close out. Boom. Now let's go off. Now we're off to the races.
Like it. This one was a rotation mix-up on the left side of the floor. So they go handoff and reverse. Then they have a chin screen, which turns into a step up. So they are establishing the double side on the offensive right side of the floor. But as this happens, it looked like you guys tried to switch out on the back side. And the gentleman who tried to switch out on the backside gets pinned on this flare and ends up with a really long closeout for an open jump shot. So would you switch that rotation at all? I understand you're living with the 3, but talk to me about the rotation itself, and would you do it any differently?
Yeah, I think that's just poorly executed. Now, you got the first initial switch. Here comes another screen. I think he just got lazy, and I think that's one that's one of those little details that coach talks about. You can't let up. Even though we're up 30, then we still have to continue to play the game like it was a close game. And I initially think like if he doesn't get hit with this ball screen, or if the big communicates, here comes the screen, that guard can get over. And I think that was one of the things that coach tried to emphasize in the entire year. We didn't have enough communicators, so.
Right, I hear you. I in an ideal world, would he still he'd get over this back screen, and then maybe they'd switch with the 2 gentlemen, this gentleman rolling and this gentleman going to the corner, so forward.
I don't think he gets over it. I think if that big opens up and tell him, here comes screen, now you get through it, and now that opposite far guard doesn't have to necessarily help as much.
Right. So he would stay with the gentleman rolling, number 5, who rolls into the paint. He would get through and get back to him in an ideal world. Don't have to pull in the tag.
Yeah, just go under, and they're not great shooters. So therefore, even if he is setting a flare, our goal was to go under all ball screens anyway, if we get the chance.
Love it. And last one, sir, for you. This is another defensive clip. I called it a back screen with a step up and a twist. So we have, again, the reversal. Here is the back screen, establishing the double side on the right side of the floor. And he came up for the step up and then twists it, and they go back. You guys end up switching on the rescreen, and then they don't really get much out of that. And then on the drive, you guys block the shot and get called for the foul. So talk to me about the way you played it and what you think is right or what you would do different in it.
I think initially, let me see. I think first of all, is that me? I'm overplaying that way too high, and we keep on letting it go. Just let it go. They come off the same exact play. Terrible execution again, and then they got another rescreen. Looks like we switch it, and then the big just gotta stay in front. I think it allowed them to get too deep, but initially we're up 30 right now, so all those little mistakes there.
I hear you. I think the error, in my opinion, happens on this closeout right here. Right, he overcommits. I think he initially wanted to knife the pass and go, and he didn't get it. And then on this rip and go, now you're like, I mean, yeah, you're fighting for position with a guy who probably weighs 20 pounds more than you, type deal. But I think on that closeout, that's sort of where the problem is. And now you're being attacked 2-on-1, and like, great job for the recovery attempt, but I think ultimately the real breakdown is probably right here when he 50% knifes the pass, 50% closes out, and then 2-on-1 at that point.
Yeah, gotcha. I actually have to answer this really quick, so therefore we're gonna have to wrap this up.
Yeah, no problem. We're that's our last clip. So thank you for your time. I appreciate that. Good luck with the rest of the tournament, sir. Give me 2 seconds when we stop the recording, and I'll just let you know when things come out and all that. But to everybody who tunes in to Run It Back, thank you. Really, really appreciate. For the coaches who jump on, appreciate your time as well. Admon, I know you got some more years playing left in you, but when you're done, I will definitely be looking out because I think you're going to be a great coach moving forward. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah,
Have a nice day.
You too, sir.
All right.